They say the Winchester Mystery House was built by fear. Not by hands, not by hope, but fear. The sprawling Victorian mansion in San Jose, California, with over 160 rooms, staircases that lead to ceilings, doors that open to thin air, and hallways that twist back on themselves is not just a house, it's a whispering maze of sorrow, and it never stopped growing. Long after the final nail was driven in and the last worker left, people reported sounds, footsteps in empty corridors, crying behind sealed doors, cold spots that moved like breath. Some believe it's haunted, others say it's cursed. But this story isn't about what the house is. It's about what it wants. Because some houses don't forget the dead, some houses remember everything. Claire Rains had always been drawn to places that didn't make sense. As a freelance journalist who specialized in the paranormal, she had traveled to broken hospitals, forest ruins, and hollowed-out towns. But nothing had called to her quite like the Winchester house. She first read about it in an old magazine at her grandmother's house. The pictures were strange. Windows in the floor, staircases that ended in midair, a room with 13 hooks and no doors. But it was the story of Sarah Winchester that hooked her. Sarah, the widow of William Wirt Winchester, the man who made his fortune from rifles, believed she was cursed. Legend says that after her husband and infant daughter died, Sarah was told by a psychic that the spirits of those killed by Winchester rifles were seeking revenge. The only way to escape them was to build. Forever. And so, she did. Claire, curious, and searching for her next story, managed to get permission for a week-long stay in the house. A special program for writers and researchers was testing overnight access. One room in the East Wing had been prepared for her. From the first night, the house felt aware. She would leave a notebook on the desk only to find it later on her bed. Her flashlight flickered in strange places but worked fine outside. Doors that were open when she went to sleep were closed by morning. And sometimes, she'd wake up at exactly 3:13 a.m. every single night. Still, she was thrilled. Every detail felt like a clue, a pattern waiting to be solved. On the third night, while exploring the upper floors, Claire found a door that wasn't on any map. It led to a short hallway, lit faintly by a stained glass window shaped like an arrow. At the end, there was a red door, unpainted, slightly ajar. Inside was a small circular room with no windows. The air was cold and still. Claire felt like she'd found something the house didn't want her to see. There was nothing inside, except a mirror and a shadow standing behind her. When she turned around, no one was there. But the mirror had changed. Instead of her reflection, it showed a long corridor made of stone, with dozens of candles flickering. At the end of that hallway stood a woman in black, veiled, motionless and pointing. Claire blinked. The image was gone. She didn't sleep that night. Over the next 2 days, Claire tried to find the red room again, but the hallway was gone. She looked through floor plans, spoke to staff, even paced out her steps from the previous visit. Nothing. The house had swallowed it whole. And then, the dreams began. Claire started seeing the woman in black every night, standing at the end of her bed, in the corners of mirrors, walking down long candle-lit halls that didn't exist. Always silent, always pointing toward the red room. Claire began to question her senses. Was the house really shifting? Or was she finally breaking under the pressure of her obsession? She turned to the diaries of Sarah Winchester, stored in the archives. One entry chilled her. They come to me when the hammer stops. The halls bend. For them, I built this place to confuse them, but they find the red room. They always do. Claire kept digging. A former caretaker once disappeared. A historian went mad in the East Wing. A tourist claimed she was followed home by someone who wasn't alive. Claire was now waking up with scratches on her arms. Her recorder picked up voices whispering her name when no one was around. One night her laptop turned on by itself. A single file was open. Key. She was being pulled towards something, some secret buried within the house. Eventually she found the hallway again. But this time it was behind a mirror in the south tower. She stepped through, heart pounding. The red room waited. It hadn't changed. And in the mirror, the woman stood again. Closer now. Still pointing. But this time, Claire whispered, "What do you want?" And the woman spoke. "The gate is opening." That night, the house felt different. The walls groaned like old bones. The floorboards trembled underfoot. The lamps flickered, not from wind, but from something deeper. Claire sensed it in the air, a pressure like the house was holding its breath. She couldn't sleep, not with what Sarah had said. A gate. The words repeated in her head over and over. At midnight, Claire lit her lantern and walked the halls alone. She didn't know why, but something inside her was pulling, calling her back to the red room. The house, as always, shifted around her. A hallway she knew by heart now twisted into an unfamiliar stairwell. Windows she passed earlier had vanished, replaced by long, blank walls. It didn't matter. She knew where she was going, and the house was letting her go. When she reached the red room, she paused. The door was slightly open. She had never left it open. Inside, everything was the same. The dust, the silence, the cold. Except now, the mirror across from the entrance was uncovered. Claire had always seen it shrouded in black cloth, but tonight the cloth lay on the ground like it had slipped off on its own. The mirror was strange. It didn't reflect the room. Instead, it showed a different space entirely. A narrow corridor made of stone, lit by dim candlelight. And standing, at the end of that corridor, was the veiled woman. Claire couldn't move. Her breath caught in her throat. The woman stood still as always, but this time her head tilted slowly, as if noticing Claire for the first time. And then, the woman lifted her hand and pointed again, but not toward Claire, toward something behind her. Claire turned. The wall, at the back of the red room, had cracked. Just a hairline at first, but growing wider, deeper. It split downward, revealing a hidden seam. From it, cold air spilled out, sharp and biting. And then, a whisper. Not one voice. Many. Too many. They spoke in tongues Claire didn't recognize. Some were crying, some were laughing. One voice repeated, her name. She stepped back, heart racing but mind strangely calm. The gate was opening, and something was coming through. Claire ran to find Sarah. She found her in the tower, sitting by a dusty window, staring out into the fog. "The red room," Claire gasped. "It's opening. Something's coming." Sarah didn't look surprised. "I know," she said softly. "It was always going to happen." Claire stared at her. "What is it? Who is she?" Sarah's eyes glistened with tears. "She was my daughter, the one I lost before she had a name. I built this place to protect her soul, but others came. Spirits tied to the rifles, spirits full of anger. Not all of them want peace." Claire felt the chill in her bones. "You built this house for the dead," she whispered. Sarah nodded. "And now they're waking up." "Then, we have to stop it," Claire said. Sarah turned to her slowly. We can't stop the gate, but we can seal it again with a soul. Claire didn't understand, at least not right away. But then she saw the way Sarah was looking at her. The regret. The sorrow. Why me? Claire asked. Because the house chose you, Sarah said. It speaks to those who still carry pain, those who've lost something. Claire backed away. No, you can't ask me to do that. I'm not, Sarah said quietly. I'm asking you to choose. And then, Sarah placed something in her hand, a small silver key. Cold, ornate, shaped like an arrow pointing downward. Claire didn't want it, but her fingers wouldn't let go. Claire did not sleep. She sat by the window in her small bedroom, staring out into the fog that rolled across the Winchester estate like a slow gray ocean. In her hand, the silver key felt heavier than it should. It pulsed faintly, like it remembered every soul who had touched it before. By morning, she had made her choice. She didn't tell Sarah. She simply walked the quiet halls of the house one last time, past staircases that led nowhere, doors that opened into brick, and windows with views that no longer made sense. She passed the grand ballroom where music once played for no one, and the crooked hallway that whispered when no one spoke. The house felt still, waiting for her. She returned to the red room. This time the mirror was black again, the cloth somehow back in place, but the crack in the wall had grown, wide enough now to reveal something beyond it, a space that didn't belong to this world. It was not darkness. It was something before light, a place where the dead did not rest. The cold from inside reached toward her like breath from a forgotten grave. She stepped forward. In the silence, she placed the key into the hidden slot that had revealed itself beside the cracked wall. It clicked. A deep sound echoed through the house like a slow heartbeat made of stone. The wall began to close. The air grew warmer. The voices faded, and the red room exhaled, as if releasing something it had held too long. Claire stood still, watching, listening. Then, it was over. The wall sealed. The cold withdrew, and the house fell into a soft, heavy silence. She never spoke of that day to anyone. Weeks passed. Claire packed her things and quietly left the Winchester Mystery House. She moved north, where the forests were deep and the fog was gentle, and she took work as a caretaker in a small village library. People said she was kind, quiet, that she always looked tired, like someone who had just come out of a long, strange dream. She never married. She never returned. But every night, as she locked the library doors and stepped outside, she looked toward the horizon, where the moonlight touched the world just right, and waited, just for a moment, to see if the house would call again. It never did. But sometimes, when the wind was just right, she could swear she heard it breathing. Even now they say the Winchester house still shifts in the night, not from wind or age, but from the quiet footsteps of a soul who chose to stay behind, guarding the gate that should never open again.